Before anyone asks, no, I didn't cut my hair. I just put it back in a ponytail. Guys, let's talk about Room for Ruby, an episode that I have been debating with myself how much to say about and what to say about in the best possible way. This is the first episode of Steven Universe in a long time that I feel like I could sit down and analyze it for an hour, as in an hour's worth of actual footage for my channel, and still have more to talk about. So I am going to be leaving a lot of my thoughts, my specific thoughts about characters, out of this review to relegate to later projects. In fact, this episode alone has inspired me to make character analyses of both Lapis and Navy, with a little bit of rose quartz on the side. And right off the bat, I will say flat out that I think this is the best Lapis episode since Mirror Gem. Though I actually feel like I need to go back and reconsider that now, because what this episode did, and why I'm so excited about it, is it actually managed to take some of the disparate aspects of Lapis's character and bring them back around to actually make sense with one another. I, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at things relative to the timeline of the show, didn't have time to make a video that I had planned where I speculated as to where I thought they might be going with Lapis's character to justify the uneven characterization. And I didn't have time specifically because this episode came around and proved me right. There's still a bit of unevenness in her characterization that I'll talk about when I get to her character analysis in a couple of weeks. But for the most part, her characterization makes sense now. And it is all thanks to this episode alone. And the way they did this, the way they brought Lapis's characterization around, was by giving us Navy as an individual character separate from the rest of the Ruby Squad. This episode started with Navy crashing to Earth from space, which opens up a few questions as to how that was possible, but I'm not going to dwell on that. Minorly annoying. I'm not going to worry about it. And she immediately says to Steven and Garnet, who were there and who witnessed her falling, that she wants to defect from Homeworld and live on Earth. And Steven, in a moment of uncharacteristic genre savviness for this particular character, brings up every single reason why she might not want to, and she has a reason for why not a single one of them is a problem. Garnet seems uncertain about this, but Steven says that if one Ruby can come to love the Earth, then another one can too, and appeals to her directly, so she lets him try this. And he takes Navy back to the barn to stay with Peridot and Lapis, the other resident gems who have some experience with coming to appreciate the Earth. Fairly recently, at least. And we get a couple of little domestic tidbits with Lapis and Peridot that were cute. We found out that Lapis sleeps, for example, which explains her messy hair, which I thought was a great touch. But the entire time, Steven and Peridot are so happy that Navy seems to love everything that she comes to learn about the Earth, but Lapis is the entire time very skeptical of Navy's behavior, of Navy's motives, of Navy herself. And so finally, when Navy says that she misses her old ship because it's the only place she ever felt at home, and they take her to her ship and she takes them for a ride in her ship and dumps them out of her ship and proves to be quite possibly the most conniving and manipulative villain that we've seen in the show so far, announcing flat out that she only even brought them along with her on the ship instead of just stealing it outright so that she could see their faces when she betrayed them, which was awesome. Lapis feels vindicated. She realizes that she was right about Navy all along. Navy warps her ship away, presumably to go get the other rubies, and we see that Garnet is carrying two balloons, one to congratulate Steven for his successful rehabilitation of Navy, and the other one to console him in his failure, and she gives him the consoling one. It's a sorry for your loss balloon. And it is this scene at the end, which is why I'm okay with this entire episode happening. If Navy was always going to betray them in every future imaginable, then Garnet would have reacted to Steven asking to rehabilitate Navy the same way that she reacted to Steven wanting to go see Pink Diamond's palanquin back in Steven's dream. And she didn't, and then at the end we see that she did plan for either outcome, which means that in some version of the future, Steven did succeed in bringing Navy around. I'm still a little curious as to why she didn't try to stop Navy leaving the planet. I can only assume that she has looked into the most likely possible futures and hasn't been able to find one where Navy leaving the planet makes things worse for the crystal gems, but it's still a bit of a stretch, and I wish they'd explain that a little bit better. Garnet having future vision and yet still allowing Steven to try to redeem Navy adds so much more to this episode, because now we are left with the question, what did Steven do wrong? If Navy would have been willing to join the Crystal Gems and live on Earth in some version of the future, in some likely version of the future, then isn't it possible that she would still be open to that later on? Isn't it possible that she might return to Earth and decide to stay there for real? We're left with so many more possibilities than we would have had otherwise, and it's got the entire fandom talking, debating which outcome they find is most likely going forward. Most impressive, though, and I already alluded to this, is the characterization in this episode. I've seen people wondering why Steven and Peridot would be so willing to trust Navy, why they would be so hasty to trust Navy to the point that they're almost too stupid to function in this situation, and that seems out of character. But I actually loved this characterization. It was so in character, and I think anyone will realize that if they take just a second to think about it, because think about it for a second. Stephen has already succeeded with convincing 2 other gems to abandon Homeworld and live on Earth. He's already shown 2 other gems how to appreciate the Earth. And then he had a long string of failures. He failed with Bismuth. He failed with Jasper. Now finally he's been introduced to another gem that seems eager to listen to him. Of course he's going to jump on that. Of course he's going to throw caution to the wind and try to bring Navy around to his side. That's the kind of person he is. He's an optimistic person at heart, and he needed another win. And it's really unfortunate that he didn't get one. As for Peridot, the Earth changed her. It taught her things about herself that she never knew, that she never would have known if she had stayed with Homeworld. And despite the fact that she didn't like Jasper, she was anxious to bring Jasper around to that way of thinking so that Jasper might be able to grow as a better person too. And so of course she's going to feel the same way about this Ruby. Rather than it being out of character, it's so in character that when they fail, it's painful. But better than anything in this episode was Lapis. Navy wasn't the focus of this episode. Lapis was. Navy was still in the focus enough that we learned a lot about her character very quickly, but this was first and foremost a Lapis episode. Lapis has come to start appreciating certain things about the Earth, but she wasn't born here the way Stephen was, and she didn't learn anything new and exciting about herself on Earth the way that Peridot did. In fact, she still has several very painful memories of being on Earth. She is trying to appreciate the Earth, and she is slowly coming to appreciate the Earth because of her respect for Stephen. And so when Lapis saw this other gem that should have had the exact same perspective that she did, taking to the planet so quickly, she is both jealous of this person, but also suspicious of their motives. And she has to, through the entire episode, balance those feelings with the respect that she has built up for both Stephen and Peridot, so that she doesn't hurt them by insisting that their attempts to rehabilitate Navy aren't going to work. Even her outburst at the end, where she announces that she was right about Navy all along in a very triumphant way, was consistent with her characterization. It felt very much like the Lapis we got to see back in Mirror Gem. It worked so well on so many levels for only an 11-minute show. In fact, that we only got 11 minutes of this is my biggest complaint. The episode felt rushed in many areas, and I think this was another example of the kind of episode which proves pretty definitively that Steven Universe would work better as a 22-minute show at this point in time. Or that at least we should be getting more 22-minute special episodes for stories like this one. Still, that is a minor complaint. This episode was, overall, one of the best episodes of the recent run of episodes of this show. I'd even go so far as to say that it was better than any of the episodes in the recent Steven Bomb. It was so good that I don't even feel like complaining about the fact that they were supposed to go get the rubies and never did. I just don't care. I loved it, and I hope this review has helped some of you guys to realize why. All of that said, guys, if you have seen this episode, what did you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, and I really hope you're looking forward to my upcoming character analyses of Lapis and Navy, because I'm certainly looking forward to making them. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.